this week also to understand the meaning of one particular word. So let's see how we go. So the story is that Yaakov agrees with Lavan that he will work for 7 years and then marry Rachel. And as we know, Lavan swapped Leah for Rachel at the last minute, and he ended up married to Leah. And we're told, as part of the wedding process, if you look at number 1, Pasuk Kaf Gimel, Vayihi ba'erev, vayikach et Leah bito, it was in the evening, and he, that's Lavan, took Leah, his daughter, vayavo ata elav, and he brought her to him, vayavo elaha, which is a polite way of saying they spent the night together. And then it says, jump one pasuk, we get to pasuk Kaf Hey, Vayihi baboker. And it occurred to me that I think perhaps part of what we're going to talk about is the contrast between Kaf Gimel, Vayihi ve'erev, it was in the evening, and Kaf Hey, Vayihi baboker, it was in the morning. It's not relevant. Well spotted, but it's not relevant. So in Kaf Hey, Vayihi baboker, and it was in the morning, V'hinei hi Leah. Now, the word on which I want to concentrate and try and understand is the word hinei, because it's crucial to our understanding of the verse. What does hinei mean? Here. Behold. Okay, thank you. I was waiting for that one. The most common translation of hinei in biblical Hebrew is behold. This doesn't help us very much because we don't know what behold means. And it's certainly not a word that most of us use regularly. I try to speak posh sometimes and I put in the word behold to sound clever, but it doesn't really help because nobody knows what it means. The best translation probably of behold is see, look here, behold, here is a thing, behold this thing. But that doesn't make sense. V'hinei hi Leah, and see, she is Leah. In modern Hebrew, hinei basically means there is or here is, and that's how it's commonly used. But that doesn't work either. Hinei hi Leah, here is Leah. So we'll leave it as behold for a moment, and then perhaps we'll get a better handle on what v'hinei means and what it does in the sentence. V'hinei hi Leah, so behold, she was Leah. And then Vayomer el Lavan, Yaakov, obviously not best pleased with this turn of events, says to Lavan, Ma zot asita li, what's this that you've done to me? Hello, v'Rachel avadati imach. Surely for Rachel I worked with you, or was it not for Rachel that I worked with you? V'lama rimitani, and why have you tricked me? Okay, so Rashi, in number 2, on the words hinei hi Leah, says as follows, Aval balayla lo hi Leah. The fact that it says she's Leah in the morning tells us she wasn't Leah in the night. So how can it be she wasn't Leah in the night? Can I let's just get through this Rashi, and we'll take the first question. Aval balayla lo hi Leah. Why? Lefisha masar Yaakov simanim l'Rachel. So here we have the well-known story that Yaakov passed some secret code, some secret sign to Rachel, because he was afraid that Lavan would trick him and would trick him with Leah. So he gave some identifying signs to Rachel. But what happened was, ukasharat shenichnasin lo Leah, when Rachel saw that what they feared was happening, and they, interesting plural, but that's not for us now, brought in to him Leah, Amra, Rachel said, Achshav tikalem achoti. Now my sister is going to be ashamed. If it turns out that, if Yaakov works out that she's Leah, Yaakov's going to make a big fuss. Leah is going to be very, very embarrassed. So what did Rachel do? Amda umasra la. She got up and she handed over to her, to Leah, oto simanim, those signs. So Rashi leaves it like that to tell us that in the night she wasn't Leah because the person had got the signs from Rachel. So, well, let's see what that effectively means. But Rashi uses the words in a very stark fashion, aval balayla lo hi Leah. But by night, she was not Leah. And the reason she was not Leah was because Rachel had passed over the simanim. Yes?
I think the text perhaps is giving us what Yaakov's thoughts are. Very often the text articulates what's going on because she was Rachel to Yaakov at night.
Okay.
And wasn't Leah until he saw her.
So you're limiting it slightly. In Yaakov's mind, she was Leah, and that's what Rashi means. It sounds, she was Rachel, thank you. It sounds, from my way of reading Rashi, a little bit more universal than that it was a fact that she was Rachel, which we're going to have to explain how that can be. But certainly it works. It works nicely, what you're suggesting, that in Yaakov's mind, because he gave this, the Leah person, the actual Leah person, identified herself as Rachel. I suppose today you can identify yourself as however you want. But the Leah person identified herself as the Rachel person because he had the signs, and that's why Yaakov thought she was Rachel. Okay. We will come back to this Rashi because there's a lot in it. But first let's look at the Gemara, which is possibly Rashi's source. And it says like this, in number 3, V'hinei Leah, so this is the Gemara in Megillah, commenting on this verse, and on the same words that Rashi comments, V'hinei Leah, V'chi ad hashta lav Leah hi, and I read it as an interrogative because that's what it is. V'chi, is it the case that until now, she wasn't Leah? As a sort of rhetorical question, i.e. surely she was Leah, so why does it say Hinei Leah in the morning? So this may or may not be Rashi's source. There's another Gemara in Baba Basra which tells a similar story in a longer fashion. And I should have put it on the sheet actually, but I didn't. But whereas Rashi says, Aval balayla lo hi Leah, that's not a question. The Gemara says, V'chi ad hashta lav Leah hi, it is a question. So the Gemara doesn't see that she was actually not Leah during the night, the way Rashi sees that she was not Leah. So the Gemara says, how can it be that we say that she's Leah in the morning? Surely she was Leah in the night. That's how I'm rephrasing the Gemara's question. But the Gemara gives the answer, Elimitoch simanim shemasar Yaakov l'Rachel, but because of the signs that Yaakov passed to Rachel, umasratan leLeah, and then she, Rachel, passed them to Leah, lo have yadah la ad hahi shata. He did not know until that time. So he didn't know until the morning. So the way the Gemara phrases it is, because of the simanim, he was unaware that she was Leah, but of course she was Leah. The way Rashi phrases it is because of the simanim, she wasn't Leah. And we'll come back to that. Now, just the Rashbam, whom I want to focus on today, says on the words in the Gemara, this is Rashbam on the Gemara. We'll come back to Rashbam on the Chumash. For those who've been learning Daf Yomi will be very well aware that Rashi Rashi retires at the beginning of Baba Basra, and the commentary in the space occupied by Rashi is the Rashbam for the rest of Baba Basra, who did not inherit his grandfather's brevity. Anyway, the Rashbam in the Gemara in number 4 says, Masarala, Yaakov simanim l'Rachel shetei amer lo balayla b'shichva. He handed to her. Yaakov handed simanim to Rachel, so they would keep a secret code. And I was interested in the next 4 words, that she would say to him at night, b'shichva, as they were lying. To be honest, I put this in because I always grew up sort of imagining that the signs were some sort of secret hand signals, like she would wave in a certain way. And maybe even at the chuppah. That she,
At night you can't see.
yeah, okay.
Then he would know who it was.
You're right. And maybe that's why I was wrong, because I am wrong, because the Gemara says that he gave her words. The code was a word or some phrase that she would say. That's right. So that's what the simanim is, according to the Rashbam on the Gemara. Let me just go to number 5, and then I'll take questions. And I put in the Rivah here, because I just think it's very interesting. This is the Rivah, who was actually a Talmud of Rashi, but I think he's quoting a Midrash anyway. And he says, V'hinei Leah, behold she was Leah, Perush Rashi, Lefi Shemasa Yaakov l'Rachel simanim, Amar b'Perush, Amar b'Perek yesh nochalim. And he just quotes the idea that Rashi that says that Yaakov passed simanim to Rachel and then Rachel passed the simanim to Leah. And then he quotes the Gemara that we just saw in number 3, but he has an extra taich, an extra thing to add to the Gemara. Shahasiman nida chala hadlakot haner. I just put it in because it's interesting. According to the Rivah, quoting, not quite sure where, but I think a Midrash, the simanim were words, and the words were the reference to the 3 mitzvot, which are particularly incumbent on women, nida, chala, and hadlakot haner. That was the secret. Now, okay, we can wonder, is this supposed to be taken literally? It seems very anachronistic. In other words, the Torah hadn't been given yet, and the details of which laws apply and which laws apply to women hadn't been given yet. Maybe Yaakov studied Torah. That's what he did in the yeshiva of Shem and Ever. Maybe that's exactly what he knew. But it's interesting. I just put it here because it's interesting that according to this source, the simanim were the halachas that apply to Jewish women. That was how Yaakov would know he had the right wife, because they would. The code was to talk about those 3 mitzvot. Okay. Back to yes. Sorry. Yes.
I don't know where I heard this. Tell me if it was made up, but I definitely heard it. And that is that Rachel was actually under the bed and actually spoke.
Yeah.
I don't know where that comes from.
I've heard
Tell
that.
me.
I've heard that. You can ask, and I don't want to get into the weeds here, which sometimes I feel that our group does a little bit. You can ask, didn't he recognize Rachel's voice as opposed to Leah's voice? To which my answer is maybe not. They were sisters. You ever make a phone call to a family in the old days when we phoned the house, not the individual phone, and you didn't know which child had answered it because their voices were so similar? Maybe. Or, yeah, I had heard that Rachel was under the bed and she did the talking. There are lots of midrashim. Yes, sir.
That relates back to Yaakov and Esau getting a brachos from Yitzchak as far as the voices as well.
Indeed. Although, as I said last week, Yitzchak said, "Hayadayim midai Esav, kol Yaakov." The voice is the voice of Yaakov. There are lots of parallels, which I'm not going to go into, because that's not the subject of the shir, between Yaakov pretending to be the older and getting the bracha, and Leah swapping with Rachel. Yes.
And the simanim would make sense because the women wouldn't have known. At that time, the women wouldn't have known what the simanim were. Yaakov may have known them because he was sitting and learning. Maybe so the only Leah couldn't have possibly known it if he told it specifically to Rachel.
Okay, interesting. So it's like an advanced Torah knowledge, or at least advanced for those times, and that's why it's a very, very secret code. Yes. So
We're assuming that one sister knew the simanim and the other sister didn't.
originally, yes. The idea was that Yaakov gave the simanim to Rachel so that he could know for sure he was marrying Rachel. But Rachel, out of compassion for her sister, gave the simanim to Leah. So that's
Yaakov is assuming he's going to be cheated.
Yaakov is worried, yes, absolutely, that Lavan is going to cheat. Lavan's reputation rides before him. Yes, it's just, shh. Yes, sir.
All of these things, unfortunately, to me, don't make sense.
Okay, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate to me as well.
Because,
Can't hear the question.
you know,
Uh,
it's not like he didn't know each of them, the 2 women. I mean, he's been around, and he knew both of them. And he, you know, if he was in bed with X and instead of Y, you know, he would have known.
Okay,
Think all these answers.
okay, so,
He stayed in bed.
okay, there will be areas of this topic which I don't want to discuss because I'm a bit uncomfortable discussing what they were doing all night. But I will say it was, we can assume it was dark, and he was relying on, the story is that he was relying on the simanim. Leah gave the simanim, so that was the end of the matter.
The story is that all these simanim were made up by the different people who felt uncomfortable with what might have happened.
Okay, maybe. I would also add, I just want to say again, I don't want to get into topics which are like not safe for work, but we can assume that he was very tsnu'ah with these 2 sisters, and that perhaps, unlike the way things happen today, he didn't know them very well, and he didn't know exactly their form and features very well. Maybe. One more comment, yes.
Yes, we see already from Sarah that when she had that she should make challahs and then she parts anida, so they didn't give the challahs or the matzahs or whatever it was, and also that she had the ner daluk and she had the challah.
Right,
and
yeah.
She had all these mitzvahs at that time.
So they were ready, there was a knowledge already there. Okay, let me move on. Okay, so the Maharal, commenting on Rashi in number 6, says as follows. So let's just remember what Rashi says in number 2. On the words, Hinei hi Leah, aval balayla lo hi Leah. Rashi says, in the night she was not Leah. And the reason is, Lefi shemasa Yaakov simanim Rachel, because Yaakov passed the simanim to Rachel, and Rachel passed them to Leah, so Leah shouldn't be embarrassed. Okay, in number 6, the Maharal comments on Rashi and says, aval balayla, etc. Perush. So what Rashi is saying is, Hadichtiv, when it says, Vayehi baboker v'hinei hi Leah, it was in the morning, and we'll say, behold, she was Leah. V'halo af balayla hi Leah, surely also in the night she was Leah. But Rashi, de'ein lo ma sheperush hakatuv shebaboker ra'ah shehi Leah. You can't say, and this is explaining Rashi, you can't say that the meaning of the pasuk is in the morning Yaakov noticed that she was Leah, That can't make sense. It's not saying that Yaakov saw in the morning that she was Leah and suddenly sort of realized. De'im came, because if so, Lichtov, the Torah could have just written, Vayihi baboker, Vayomer el Lavan mazot osita. It was in the morning, and Yaakov said to Lavan, what have you done? You've tricked me, you've given me the wrong wife. That would have been all the information we need. If it had just been that Yaakov got up in the morning, looked at the bed and noticed, oh, that's Leah, and then went, he could have just complained to Lavan without us having to know, Vihine hi Leah. Those words would have not have been necessary. So rather, Elavadai, line 3, Elavadai, but certainly Haki Perusho, this is the meaning of the words, Vihine hi Leah, behold she is Leah, Baboker, in the morning, Aval balayla lo haita Leah. But in the night she was not Leah. And I'll come back to Vihine in a minute. Lefi shemasra la hasimanim, because he passed her the simanim. V'kaim alan, and we hold the simanim da'araita. Simanim have a halachic effect, even according to the Torah. How do we know simanim have a halachic effect according to the Torah? So the classic use of simanim is identifying the owners of lost objects. So there is a whole Torah about finding lost objects. We do not say finders keepers. We say finders look after and try and identify the owner of the lost object under certain circumstances. And if somebody comes and says, I lost a wallet, and the finder of a wallet says, well, tell me some distinguishing features, and he says, well, it was brown, it was a bit frayed in the corner, then if the simanim are precise enough, the wallet belongs to the claimant. And that's what it means to say simanim deraita. It's not just there is a law about simanim, but rather simanim create a halakhic reality. So if I come and I say I've lost my wallet, and I can identify the wallet by the sign, identification of the wallet is mine. It belongs to me. That's a very powerful reality. So says the Maharal, in the same case, the simanim that Leah used to identify herself as Rachel created a halachic reality. And this is what the Maharal is saying about Rashi. Again, Rashi says, unlike the Gemara, that in the night she wasn't Leah. That's the force of the Hinei Baboker, he Leah. Behold, in the morning she was Leah. That means, according to Rashi, she wasn't Leah at night. So which we all said when I read this, first of all, what's going on here? Of course she's Leah. No. Halacha says the one who brings the simanim is the person who has the simanim, if you like. So by using Rachel's unique simanim, Leah becomes Rachel. And that is what the Maharal is saying that Rashi is saying. But let's just finish the Maharal before you all jump on me. V'hevei simon muvhak. If you have a identifying simon, uleficha balayla harei hi Rachel, and therefore by night she was Rachel. Le'inyan dina lismoch alav, in terms of the law, and you can rely on it. By the way, just a moment. Yeah. Okay. Okay, one at a time. Sorry. No. I finished the sentence. Yes.
Does this have anything to do with Yaakov and Esav? That once Yaakov created the idea that he was Esav by putting on that stuff?
Not. I think not. I think at least what we're reading now is it's the power of the simanim in particular. Oh, sorry. It's the simanim in particular that make that change.
So
and
the disguise wouldn't be the same thing?
No, it wouldn't be the same thing. It's a different matter. Yes.
It would seem to me that, like, here he got married. The simanim to him was an insurance policy that it was Rachel. So that in his excitement and in the night and everything else, to him, she was Rachel.
Okay,
That was what he anticipated.
so Rashi's saying something stronger than that. Rashi's saying that she took on the halachic identity of Rachel.
Well, isn't that a little mystical?
Well, no, I think Rashi would say, or the Maharal would say, it's halachic. It's absolutely halachic. But that's what he means by simanim deraita. That simanim have a halachic effect, even according to the Torah. Now, your explanation works well, but it's not what Rashi says, at least according to the Maharal.
It's for Yaakov.
Okay, that's what we said over here. Yes.
I'm wondering whether, let's say, there is a hateful relationship between two brothers or a father and a son. Now, every day, the father says, can you bring me my wallet? I forgot it up in the bedroom. And every day, he brings it down. He knows his wallet very, very well. And so, when his father said, I lost the, and then there's a thing, simanim, he could say, oh yes, it's brown. He wants to steal it. It's brown, and it has, this, and it has a few blue dots on it because something paint spilled on it, and whatever. Now, what happens then?
Okay, so again, I'm going to answer this. And then I want to get back to the text. I'm afraid I'm going to have to draw the line. I'm very sorry. I'll take questions afterwards. The answer is the Torah is designed for human society with all its failings. And the Torah gives the vast majority actually of halacha is what to do if things go wrong. Because things will go wrong. And even the simanim, the system of simanim can be abused by people who want to abuse it. That's my answer to you. Let me move on to say.
Wait.
No.
He wants to move on.
He did finish. No, he didn't finish.
I think I did finish. Okay, let's get back to the text. So I want to suggest. One more thing before I suggest something about Rashi. Rashi, if you noticed carefully, in the Gemara in number 3, did not say that Rachel had compassion on Leah and that's why she gave the simanim. As I said, another Gemara in Bava Basra does say that. One has to ask, why does Rashi include that detail? The Rashi in number 2 would have been sufficient if he just said, behold, she's Leah in the morning, she wasn't Leah at the night because Rachel gave the signs to Leah. But Rashi adds that Rachel had rachmanas. Rachel had tremendous compassion on Leah. And by the way, Rachel didn't know that she was going to end up being married a week later. As far as Rachel knew, she was giving away her entire life. There are some people who die for what they believe in. Rachel lived for what she believed in. And as far as she knew, sorry to get all emotional here, as far as she knew, the man that she loved was being married to her sister, and that would be the end of it. And Rachel facilitated that rather than let her sister be embarrassed. And I'd suggest that Rashi mentions that detail because of something else that Rashi has to say. If you look at number 7, Vayizkor Elokim et Rachel, Vayishma Eleha, and Hashem remembered Rachel, and he listened to her, Elokim, Vayiftach et Rachma. He opened her womb, she became pregnant. This is after Rachel has had to endure a long time of infertility. Leah's pumping out children on an annual basis. Rachel is not. And eventually Hashem listens to Rachel, and she gets pregnant, and she bears Yosef, and things get a little bit better. Now, what does it mean? Vayizkor Elokim et Rachel. Hashem remembered Rachel. How does Hashem need to remember things? Does Hashem forget things, and then he gets some sort of mnemonic to remind him? Surely not. So Rashi says in number 8, Vayizkor Rachel, Hashem remembered Rachel, Zachar la shemasra simaneha la achotah. He remembered that she passed simanim to her sister. In other words, now was the time to pay her reward for the tremendous act of chesed that she did. So I think Rashi mentions it in number 2 in the context of when Rachel and Leah were swapped. Rashi makes the point that Rachel acted out of great tzidkut, out of great righteousness and a great sensitivity, so that we can explain when the pasuk says Vayizkor Elokim et Rachel, we can explain that means Hashem remembered Rachel's kindness, and Hashem remembered the great deed that Rachel did, which is why Rashi mentions it earlier. Okay, I want to suggest, I'm not sure this totally works, but I want to suggest that Rashi has an understanding of the word hine. And I said at the beginning, part of our problem is we don't really know what the word hine means, and we say behold, which, as I said, doesn't help us very much because we don't know what behold means. I want to suggest that Rashi believes it means something brand new has appeared. Something that wasn't there before. Now, we're about to see a different interpretation, and we will compare the two. But Rashi, I believe, is explaining what he explains. If it says Hinei hi Leah in the morning, that means that is something brand new. It wasn't Leah prior to. And that's the force of the word v'hinei. So I think Rashi understands v'hinei as there is something brand new that wasn't there before.
Meaning what? That it was really Rachel?
Yes, meaning that's why Rashi says it was really Rachel. That's the power of the word v'hinei. I'll take a very quick point.
That implies that Hinei applies to Yaakov. more like the Torah is telling us that the Hinei, and now we're telling you
Yeah,
that it was.
correct.
You knew it all night.
No, he didn't know it all night.
I'm saying that's one theory.
Okay, so let's learn Rashi's theory.
My theory is that in some ways the whole thing wouldn't even be a problem
Please turn
if
off the
we
phone.
said that he knew it all night.
Okay, but Rashi.
We could have a question why he didn't do it, but
Okay, so I'm concentrating on what I'm concentrating on what Rashi says, and Rashi says on the words Hinei hi Leah, aval balayla lo hi Leah, and I'm suggesting that Rashi says this because he understands the word Hinei to mean something very precise, to mean there's something brand new that wasn't here before. Now compare that with Rashi's grandson, the Rashbam, whom we actually met in number 4 when he's commentating on the Gemara, but now let's see him when he's commentating on the Chumash. In number 9, v'hinei hi Leah, b'davar shelo noda techila omar v'hinei. With something that was not known before, we say v'hinei. And I suggest that's not the same as Rashi. Rashi says v'hinei introduces something that didn't exist before. The Rashbam says v'hinei introduces something that wasn't known before. It was there, but wasn't known. So according to Rashi, Yaakov spent the night with Rachel because Leah became Rachel. I think that's what Rashi's saying. We may or may not agree, but I think that's what Rashi's saying. According to the Rashbam, Yaakov spent the night with Leah, but didn't know it was Leah until the morning. And in the morning, it is now known that it's Leah, hence the word Hinei. Now it is known. And the Rashbam appears with this idea in other places as well. The Rashbam who says Hinei means something wasn't known until now, and now it is known. And he says at the end of number 9, V'chein, and similarly we find the same idea, V'hinei chalom. Behold, it was a dream. Who dreamt? Good guess, Paro. Because he's referring to number 10. And number 10 talks about Paro having dreams. Well, 1 or 2 dreams. That's part of what Yosef had to reveal to him. Paro has a dream about cows eating cows. Paro goes to sleep, and he wakes up again, and he has a dream about ears of corn eating ears of corn. And if you look in number 10, V'tivalno hashibolim hadakot et sheva hashibolim habriot. The thin ears of corn ate the fat ears of corn. Vayikatz, and he awoke, Paro, so Paro woke up. V'hinei chalom, and behold, it was a dream. And the Rashbam refers us to this pasuk. So we've got to understand why is the Rashbam referring us to this pasuk. So we have the word v'hinei. So what, according to the Rashbam, if you're following me, what does v'hinei mean? Something wasn't known before. So what does it mean v'hinei chalom? Now it's known that it was a dream. Before it wasn't known that it was a dream. And the Rashbam says exactly that in number 11. V'hinei chalom, when the Torah says about Paro, behold, it was a dream. Kamo hinei hi Leah. So Rashbam is consistent. In our pasuk, he refers us to Paro, and in the Paro pasuk, he refers us back to our pasuk because he's consistent, and he'll show us to other places as well in a minute. Well, it's using one pasuk to shed light on the other, and he says aval ata again. Sorry, I'll start from the beginning of number 11. V'hinei chalom, by Paro, behold, it was a dream. Says the Rashbam, that is compatible to V'hinei hi Leah, our pasuk, behold, she was Leah. Aval adata haya savur shura'a mamash v'lo chalam. Until now, Paro thought that he was really living it. You know how it is with dreams. You think it's real life, and then you wake up and you realize it was a dream. So, according to the Rashbam, Hinei means something that we didn't know before. So Hinei chalom means we didn't know it was a dream before. Now we know it's a dream. Let's look at Rashi on the same pasuk in number 12. V'hinei chalom. Now, remember what Rashi, according to me, his understanding of v'hinei is? Something didn't exist. So Rashi says on the word v'hinei chalom, v'hinei nishlam chalom shalem lefanav. A dream, a complete dream has been completed before him, v'hutzrach lepotrim. And now it needs expositors. It needs somebody to explain it. And I think that works well. According to Rashi, what's now existing that didn't exist before? No, not quite. A complete dream. There'd been half a dream prior. The first dream about the cows eating the cows, that was half a dream. Paro went back to sleep after that. Now he wakes up and he has a complete dream. So I think it works. According to Rashi, there wasn't a complete dream until this moment. Now there is a complete dream. That's something brand new. So I think Rashi is consistent here with what he says with Leah. In the night, it wasn't Leah. In the morning, it was Leah. Similarly, in the night, it wasn't a complete dream for Paro. V'hinei chalom. Now it is a complete dream for Paro. The Mizrahi.
The switch.
Sorry?
How did they do the switch?
Which switch?
If it was Rachel and then it became Leah.
How did it turn back into Leah? Good question. So,
Just want to know.
okay, according to... I reckon Rachel wanted to know as well. I presume when in the morning, then he sees, and he didn't see before, because it's now light, and now there is incontrovertible evidence that she is Leah. So now...
It wasn't Rachel before. It was an indecisive...
No, I think it has to be... I think Rashi is saying it was Rachel. Leah with the Simanim halachically became Rachel. And then Leah, but even the Simanim, I suppose the answer to your question is, even though Simanim can create a halachic effect, if there is incontrovertible evidence against the Simanim, then the power of the Simanim falls away. Yes?
I think this is amazing. I guess, I don't know if you're going to discuss this later, but that Yosef knows that it's years because of the story of Rachel and Leah.
Okay, so yes.
That's a whole shir in itself.
Okay, I'm not going to go there, but there...
That you're bringing this, I mean, Yosef didn't know the Hinei and the Hinei.
True.
But he did figure out by the words that it was Shanim and the 7 years of looking for Rachel and Leah.
Okay, let me move on to the Mizrahi, commenting on Rashi. Now, the Mizrahi comments on Rashi, and he's commenting on the Paro Pasuk that we saw in number 10. And Rashi's comment, number 12, Hinei Chalom, Hinei Nishlam Chalom Shalem Lefanav. Now there was a complete dream, which hadn't existed before. So the Mizrahi doesn't say exactly what I say, but it's still worth reading. He says as follows, Hinei Chalom, Hinei Nishlam Chalom, quoting Rashi, now there was a complete dream and it needed explaining. Lo kamo bekitza harishona, not like the first time Paro woke up. By the way, I'm just to share with you, I heard a Vort many years ago, but it's very relevant. In our Parsha, Yaakov has a dream. He wakes up, he says, Zeh Shah Shemayim, he starts davening to Hashem. He woke up early, he davened Shacharis. That's what you do. Paro also had a dream. Paro woke up after the first dream, and then what did Paro do? Went back to sleep. Yaakov gets up to go to shul, Paro goes back to sleep. Anyway, says the Mizrahi in the bottom line on the page, end of the line. When he woke up the second time, he knew it was a complete dream. Lo kamo b'kitza rishona, not like he woke up the first time. Sha'adayin haya mishtadel, turn over the page, he was still trying lishon, to go back to sleep, thinking, ulai yashlim chalomo, perhaps my dream will be completed. So only when he wakes up the second time, or ki achshav b'kitza hashenit, but now waking up the second time, shahaita samoch leboker, it was nearly morning, v'nitya esh kavar mehashena, and he's given up thoughts of sleep. He's not going to go back to sleep because it's too late in the day. Shafat shekavar nishlam chalom. So he judged that now the dream was complete, v'hutzrach lepotrim, and it needed explanation, as Rashi says. Vayhi perish v'hinei chalom, chalom shalem. And the meaning of, behold, it was a dream, is it's now a complete dream. Okay, that's the Mizrahi explaining Rashi in this case. It's now a complete dream, because now he's not going to go back to sleep, so the dream is complete. Hinei chalom. But then he says, at the end of line 2 on our page, aval ein lefaresh v'hinei chalom, don't understand the words v'hinei chalom, v'lo kamo shahaya choshev terem hakitza, shahaya kol zeh bahakitz. Don't suggest that what Paro means, or the Torah means, is before he thought he was awake, he thought he was living the dream in reality. Who says that? If anyone's been following me, that's exactly what the Rashbam said. The Rashbam said he woke up in the morning and it was now he realized it was a dream, because the Rashbam says Hinei means something that wasn't known before. He thought he was awake while he was seeing the cows and seeing the ears of corn. The Mizrahi says, no, that's not what it means. And I presume he's got the Rashbam in his sight, so he doesn't say it. And the reason that's not what it means is, I'm going to end of line 3. Line 4, word 4. Mibnei shekain hu derech kol hacholmim. Because that's the way of everyone who has a dream. Umat tzarich lichtov zeh po. And what do you need to write that here for? In other words, I'll come back to the line we missed out, which is crucial. Rashi says, behold, it was a complete dream. The Rashbam says that means that he didn't realize it was a dream before. He thought he was awake. He thought he was living, seeing these cows and ears of corn. The Mizrahi says, definitely not. That's not what it means. Because everyone, when they dream, thinks that they're in real life. They think it's real. So the Torah wouldn't have bothered to point that out, that Paro realized it was a dream. That's why the Mizrahi rejects the Rashbam's comment. And he insists on Rashi's comment that it was a complete dream, and the complete dream hadn't existed before. Now, if you go back to the end of the second line on this page, in the third line, Kamo Vayehi baboker v'nei Leah, shekodem zeh haya chashuv shehi Rachel. So here the Mizrahi disagrees with my reading of the Rashi. It might take tremendous chutzpah to say this, but I still think I'm right. He says there is an alternative interpretation of the dream thing, that he woke up and he thought it was he thought previously that he was awake, and then he realized he wasn't awake. And he compares that to the finding out that in the morning it was Leah. And he says that's the same sort of thing. Previously, Yaakov thought that it wasn't Leah, and in the morning he realizes that it was Leah. So in this part, Mizrahi's comment,
He was with Leah.
that's right. Okay, the Mizrahi says differently from me. The Mizrahi says that in the night Yaakov thought it was Rachel, and in the morning it turned out that he'd made a mistake, it was Leah. I still don't think that's what Rashi says. I think Rashi is saying, Ad Hashta, in the night she was not Leah. Okay, let me move on to this Rashbam. But number 14. So we have another pasuk with the word v'hinei in it. And this pasuk says, also from last week's Parsha, v'yimalu yameha laledet, v'hinei tomim b'vitna. Talking about Rivka, her days drew near to give birth, and behold, there were twins in her womb. Behold, there were twins. So based on what we've seen from the Rashbam, what do you think the Rashbam is going to say? On behold, there were twins? But they didn't know before. And that's exactly what he says in number 15. V'hinei tomim, b'chol davar chidush, in anything which is new, ragil lomar kain. We're accustomed to say this, the word v'hinei. And he gives an example. V'chein, vayehi baboker v'hinei hi Leah. Everything comes back to that pasuk. It was in the morning, and behold, it was Leah. Ki ad ata hayasavur shehi Rachel. This is the Rashbam, not Rashi. Until now, he thought that she was Rachel. V'chein v'yikat paro v'hinei chalom. And then he brings the paro pasuk. In each case, says the Rashbam, it's revealing something that wasn't known before. It wasn't known that Rivka was having twins. It wasn't known that she was Leah. She was Leah. It wasn't known that Paro was dreaming. Ki lo haya savor shehi cholam ad sheni ar mishnato. Because Paro didn't know that it was a dream until he woke from his sleep. So here we have the Rashbam giving 3 examples of the Rashbam's understanding of the word v'hinei. The Rashbam understands the word v'hinei to mean something that wasn't known before. It wasn't known that Rivka was having twins. It wasn't known that it was Leah. It wasn't known that Paro was dreaming. Now, I'd love to know what Rashi would say about this pasuk. According to me, Rashi would say there weren't twins before and now there are twins. No. Unfortunately, Rashi doesn't say anything at all on this pasuk. So I don't know how Rashi would read this pasuk. I don't know. But the Rashbam reads it as it wasn't known that there were twins, and now it is twins. I don't know if anyone's going to ask, didn't Rivka get a prophecy that there would be twins? I don't know what the Rashbam says about that. I didn't check what the Rashbam says about the prophecy, but it certainly looks like, and I don't want to go revisit last week's Sedra, but it certainly looks like Rivka didn't tell Yaakov about the prophecy. Sorry, Yitzchak, thank you. Rivka didn't tell Yitzchak about the prophecy. It sounds like Rivka kept it private until it was relevant to reveal. So as far as everyone else was concerned, they didn't know she was having twins. And then she has twins, so v'hinei tomim, behold, there are twins. He didn't know that before. Yes?
I have the following difficulty. whatever happened to Lifnei Iver Losite Michshol?
Well, Lavan doesn't do the right thing.
I'm talking about what Leah and Rachel did.
Okay.
To Yaakov.
Well, okay, it wasn't the Michshol in the sense that Yaakov didn't commit an Aveira by getting married to Leah. So Rachel wasn't putting Yaakov in a situation where Yaakov was committing an Aveira.
You're fooling the gentleman.
Lifnei Velotite Michshol has got a particular halakhic interpretation. Don't give somebody bad advice that will lead them to do the wrong thing. So Yaakov wasn't doing the wrong thing by marrying Leah. In fact, from Leah's point of view, it's probably a good thing.
I think of it as fooling somebody, and that bothers me.
Okay. I think the answer to that perhaps is the way Rashi quotes it, the way the Gemara in Bava Basra quotes it, is the alternative was the unimaginable embarrassment that Leah would experience. So Rachel, being the good sister, wants to save Leah from that terrible, terrible embarrassment. So that's her primary concern. Okay. What did Rachel do to Yaakov? Did she deceive him? Yeah, well, possibly. But again, I'll come back to the same answer. Okay. But out of concern for the ultimate embarrassment for her sister.
Does that really mitigate?
HaKadosh Baruch Hu thinks so.
Well, I'm not sure. Rachel, she didn't have such a great life.
No, she didn't. She didn't.
And so maybe it wasn't such a mitzvah.
Okay, well, deal with that another time. Yes, sir.
Like to what that said, the Torah wasn't given, it wasn't such a Michshol.
That's also true.
Just like they weren't allowed to marry two sisters.
Right, that's also true. Famous question, how could Yaakov marry two sisters, which is forbidden in halacha? You could say the Torah hadn't been given. The Maharal says, very interestingly, that the Avot kept, or certainly Yitzchak and Yaakov kept the positive mitzvot. They didn't necessarily keep the negative mitzvot. But we'll leave. Okay, I'm going to have to move on. I feel like somebody on the floor of the House of Commons. Sometimes they take interventions and sometimes they don't. I'd like to see a beautiful piece by the TORAH Tamima, which expands on what we've learned so far. So the TORAH Tamima number 16 says, Nire kavanat ha'kushya v'chi ad hashta lav leahi. The intention of the question, when the Torah says, when Rashi says, previously was she not Leah? Al pi ma shekatuv Rashbam beperish pasuk zeh, dechol makom dichtiv haloshon v'hinei mora al davar chidush shelo nara mitchila. So we're putting Rashi on one side now. We're concentrating on the Rashbam's interpretation. V'hinei means something wasn't known before. V'hinei, and now it is known, and that explains that Yaakov didn't know that it was Leah in the night, and now he does know that it was Leah. Yayin Sham, in the middle of line 2. Go and look there, says the TORAH Tamima. I have expounded at length above in the Parsha of Lech Lecha, in the pasuk where Avraham and Sarah are going to Egypt because of a famine. And Avraham turns to Sarah and says, Hinei, line 3, it's also there in number 17, Hinei na yadati ki isha yafat mare'at. Behold, that word again, na, please, or now perhaps, yadati, I know, or better still, I have known, because it's past tense, ki isha yafat mare'at, that you're a beautiful woman. Yain Sham, look there. Umekevon sha'omer kan v'hinei hi Leah, and since it says here, in our pasuk, behold, she was Leah, Kasha, it renders the question, V'hi ad ashta lav Leahi, was she not Leah beforehand? Umay chidush yesh kan, and what newness is there? And the newness is, it turns out that it was Leah, and Yaakov didn't know that before. Ube'ur klal hadrasha memesirat hasimanim ay mashakutav la'ayel. And in order to understand the idea about handing over the simanim, see what the TORAH Tamima, wrote above in the beginning of Lech Lecha. So let's do that, shall we? Shall we see what the TORAH Tamima wrote at the beginning of Lech Lecha? So the pasuk on which we're interested, and it contains the word v'hinei, as we've already introduced, is this. Avraham and Sarah are coming to Mitzrayim. Number 17. Vayehi ka'asher hikriv lavo Mitzrayma, and it was when they came near to Egypt, Vayome el Sarai. Avraham said to Sarai, Ishto, his wife, Hinei na yadati ki isha yafet mara'at. Behold, I know, or I have known, that you're a beautiful woman, and therefore we need to hide you, or therefore I'm worried that they will take you and it will look badly on me. Please say that you're my sister, not my wife, etc., etc. And the Gemara there in Bava Basra, in number 18, says on the words, Hinei no yadati, the following. Mikan, we see from this, that Avraham, afilu b'didei lo estakil. Even in his own wife, he didn't gaze at her. Because the pasuk says, behold, I know that you are a beautiful woman. Michlal demiikara lo have yada la, which implies that previously he did not know this. Okay. The Gemara says, the Gemara says that we learn from this pasuk that Abraham did not look at his wife, and that's why only now did he realize that she was beautiful. Because now he looked at her. Okay, now I don't want to get into whether this is a model for the relationship between husband and wife that we should all adopt. I don't think necessarily the Gemara is saying that. In fact, I'm pretty sure the Gemara is not saying that. But it is saying that in the case of Abraham and Sarah, on the level that they were on, which is a level we can't even imagine, he didn't look at her. That was the level of sneer they had in their house.
Maybe compared to the women in Mitzrayim.
Okay, that's one of the things Rashi says. That's what Rashi says. But, says the Torah Tamima, the Torah Tamima says, what is the basis of this drasha? How does the Gemara know that Abraham had not previously looked at his wife? And he says in number 19, this is the Torah Tamima, Lo nitba'er hakracha drasha. It's not clear what is forcing the drasha. In other words, the Gemara says, we see from here that Abraham had not looked at his wife previously. How does the Gemara know that? Now, we know where this is going, I hope, because it's all dependent on the word v'hinei and the Rashbam's interpretation of v'hinei. So the Torah Tamima says, the force of the drasha is not clear. If we hadn't had the shir up till now, we might have wondered, why does the drasha say that Avram hadn't looked at his wife previously? The halo kativ ata yadarti. The pasuk doesn't say, now I know. If it had said, now I know, that would be clear that now I know something, and beforehand I didn't know. But we don't have the word ata, meaning now. Va'adarabba, in fact, on the contrary, pashtuta lashon hinei na yadarti, the simple meaning of the phrase, behold, I have known, mashma yadati mekavar. It sounds like the word yadati in the past tense means I already knew. I've known all this time. I have looked at you and I've noticed you're beautiful. The word yadati sounds like he'd already known this. So how does the Gemara say it was a new revelation for him that she was indeed beautiful? So he says in the second line, v'nireh hatam ha-diuk. It seems that the reason, the way that the Gemara makes its derivation, hu miloshan hinei, it's because of the word hinei. Va'al pi ma shekatuv Rashbam b'Parshat Vayetzeh, and it all comes from what the Rashbam says in our Parsha. V'zeh loshono, and that's what it says here. This is the Rashbam's words. B'chol davar shelo noda techila amar v'hinei. In everything that was not known previously, that's why the Torah uses the word hinei. Ad kan lashano, that's the end of the Rashbam's words. Ube'emet kein morim harbe pesukim. And indeed, this idea from the Rashbam will explain many pesukim. Kamo, for instance, v'hinei te'umin b'vitna. There were twins in her womb. That's number 14. We can understand that previously she didn't know that there were twins in her womb, and now, or maybe other people now know that there are twins. V'yikatz paro v'hinei chalom. And Paro woke up, and behold, it was a dream. Shalo noda la ze ad shahakaitz mishenoto. He didn't know it was a dream until he woke up from his sleep. Now he knows something which he didn't know before. V'chein dat Chazal b'kol makamot. And so is b'kama makamot. It's the opinion of Chazal in many places. When you see the word hinei, they learn it like the Rashbam learns, and they say, now there is new information that there wasn't there before. That's for hinei. Kamoba Megillah Yud Gimel, as the Gemara says, and we saw that in number 3.
So what does now mean?
Either now or please. But another share. I know it's a bit of my catchphrase, but another share.
What about
I think not. Good question, because Hineni is short for Hinei Ani.
Isn't there a I don't know, I have to.
Okay, you're quoting the first paragraph of Yirmiyahu, which I should know because of my bar mitzvah TORAH, but I don't know it as well as you. Hineni is an interesting question. We'd have to. Very good, very good. Yeah.
And so, what does the Hine mean there?
I don't know. We'd have to see. Is there a Rashbam on Yirmiyahu? I think there is. We'd have to see. We'd have to see. Okay.
It makes sense in that context.
Okay. The beauty of TORAH is there's always more to learn. But you ask a good question. Hineni is short for Hinei Ani, behold I. So we'd have to look to see if the Rashbam makes that comment on one of the many Hinenis. But he certainly makes that comment on Hinei. So time is lacking. I want to jump to number 20. So basically what Torah Tamima said is, when Abraham says to Sarah, Hinei na yadati ki isha yafet mara'at. Now, behold, I know that you're a beautiful woman. According to the Rashbam, that means I know something now I didn't know before, and that is why the Gemara in number 18 learns that Abraham was on such a level of sniut that he didn't look at his wife previously. Okay, it comes from the word v'hinei. Well, it made him look now as he's coming to Egypt and he's worried about how the Egyptians are going to look at her. Okay, I want to see number 20 because this is a rather beautiful idea. Number 20, continues the Torah Tamima. Let's run with this idea that hinei means there's something here that we didn't know before. And we can now explain what the Midrash Rabbah says in Bereshit on the words, Vayar Elokim et kol asher asa. Hashem saw everything that he had done. V'hinei tov ma'od. And can we turn off the phone, please? And hinei, it is very good. As we know, Hashem created something on the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth day, and every day except Monday, he says it's good. On Friday, he says, V'hinei tov ma'od. V'hinei, which I won't bother to translate, it's very good. Says the Midrash, Milamed shahaya Kadosh Baruch Hu bona alamot umarchivan. Hashem would build worlds and destroy them. Bona alamot machrivan. And continue building worlds and destroying them. Ad shabara et elu, until he created these ones. For Amar, and he said, Din hanayin li, this one gives me pleasure. The din lo hanayin li, and this one is not good for me. That's what the Midrash says. The Midrash says, and there are many different opinions about this matter, but there were previous worlds before this one. There were worlds that were created and destroyed, worlds that were created and destroyed. Incidentally, the Tiferes Yisrael commentary on the Mishnah says that explains fossils. I'll just leave that in the air. That explains fossils, which appear to come from an earlier time. Anyway, so let's get back to the Torah Tamima. Number 20, third line, fourth word. So the Torah Tamima has quoted the Midrash, which is based on the words V'hinei tov ma'od, and the Midrash then says this shows that there were previous worlds that Hashem created and destroyed. Says the Torah Tamima, V'lo nitba'er chachra drasha zu. At first glance, I don't understand how the drasha works. Im lo al pi haklal hanizkar. Unless you use the general rule that we've mentioned earlier, the haloshen hinei, but the word hinei, mora ala hitchadshut hadavar. The word hinei means a renewal of the thing. Mashalo haya adko, what was not here previously. I have to say, this sounds more like Rashi than Rashbam. It's a creation, it's something new. Ve'im kein haperush v'hinei tov shenit chadesh ba'olam davar shehu tov mashalo haya mitchila. The perush is, when it says the word v'hinei tov ma'od, now there is something which is tov, but previously there wasn't something which was tov. There were previous worlds which didn't make the grade, which weren't tov. Hinei tov ma'od, this one is tov ma'od in a way that the previous worlds were not. Hence the Gemara's conclusion that there were previous worlds before this one, and the hinei tov ma'od, now this world is good, and the previous worlds were not.
When Hashem know what he's creating?
Okay, we won't get into that. I just want to conclude.
It's hard to explain it. I mean,
this was gonna happen in advance, or before what happened here?
Okay, I think I'm entitled to say that there's a big Torah.
It's hard, I'm not saying
Okay, thank you.
personal, I'm just saying.
It's a big Torah out there.
Avoid it to some extent.
Okay, maybe another time we'll explain that midrash and see if we can understand it. But I'm bringing it here, or rather Torah Tamima brings it here as an application of the word vihine. I just want to leave you with a slightly different formulation about what vihine means from another commentary from the 19th century, Hakatav Kabbalah. Maybe, but it's nice to be consistent. Okay, let me conclude with number 22. The Kav Kabbalah, who also often finds himself giving general rules about interpretation of words and grammar and so on. And this is a commentary that comes from Parshat Tazria, where people get blemishes on their skin, which are sarat, on the words v'hinei hanega. So somebody gets a blemish and it says, behold, there's a affliction. Milat hinei, ba b'devarim niflaim, Be'einav hamisaper v'hashomea. Says the Ketav Kabbalah, and I'll just bring this as an alternative way of processing what hine means. He says it refers to things which are niflaim in the eyes of the speaker and the listener. Niflaim means wondrous, amazing, surprising. Or he puts, as he continues, v'yora al zarut v'chidush. It indicates two things, strangeness and newness. K'soper divrei hachalom v'hinei anachnu ma'amilim. When Yosef has a dream, and he says, behold, we were binding sheaves. That's his first dream. And it's introduced with the word v'hinei. Or v'hinei omed al hayor. Paro had a dream. Behold, he was standing literally on the river. V'hinei chalom, we've already seen. Behold, it was a dream. And finally, baboker v'hinei hi Leah. So we've come back to where we started. Says the Ketav Kabbalah, those are all examples not just of something that wasn't known before, but something that's very surprising. So to dream about binding sheaves when in fact they were shepherds, or to dream about standing on a river when that's impossible, or to have a dream concluded when you didn't think it was a dream, or the fact that it was Leah, all of these things are strange and new. And that, according to Ketav Kabbalah, is why Vihine is there. So all this is based on one word, the power of the word Vihine. It doesn't mean behold, because we don't know what that means. According to the various things we've seen, it means some degree of newness. According to Rashi, I contest, something brand new that wasn't there before. Now she's Leah. Previously she wasn't Leah, because that's the power of the Simanim. According to the Rashbam, now I know she's Leah. Previously I didn't know she was Leah. Maybe because it was dark, maybe because of the Simanim. Okay, we'll stop there. Thank you.